You gotta scoot back though. Sit back. Hi everybody. We will wait till you join us. There, Grandma. So everybody can see you and me. This is Facebook Live, and then people can watch us and hear us talk and join the conversation if they want. Hi Sherry. Hi Pat. So this is my grandma, Alita Walker, and she got her hair done today. Doesn't it look amazing?
So right now, I'm Miss America.
She's Miss America right now. My mom came over and fixed her hair. She's been doing that.
And
She's pretty good at it.
She's better than any beautician I've ever had.
Oh, so we're getting creative about how to get stuff done these days.
Now,
I know you guys are
names
too.
that are popping up, how do they know we're on there?
Okay, because they got a notification that I'm on Facebook Live right now. They know because they're also on Facebook, so then they saw that I'm on Facebook Live. But if other people are not on right now, they could watch it later. So.
That's too far away from me to
For you to read it?
read who they are.
Well, but that's okay. They can see us, even though these names are kind of in the way for us. They can still see us, so.
But it doesn't affect,
No.
them coming up doesn't affect our,
No, they can still see us because where they're looking at it, those comments are below us. So it works. Anyway, so we were talking about, we were talking with her nephew on FaceTime just a few minutes ago, and he showed us an old picture. And in this old picture, this is a picture of her great grandfather. And she wrote her life story. Okay, look, she wrote her life story. She wrote it in longhand, look, like actual cursive writing. And she did this, she finished it 11 years ago. And in August 25th, she's going to be 97. 97. But it's kind of fun because she has so much history. So she starts her life story talking about her great grandfather and her grandfather. And so she said that her great grandfather was the son of a circuit rider Baptist preacher. I mean, and so, well, I guess it was your great grandfather that was the Baptist preacher. And then your grandfather was the son of him.
yes, and he wasn't a Christian.
He wasn't a Christian until later in
He
life.
wasn't a Christian till the last year that he lived.
Okay. Yeah.
But a circuit rider, not everybody would know what a circuit rider was.
Okay. Explain to my Facebook friends what a circuit rider preacher is.
A circuit rider would go from one little community, because there were not that many towns in Indian Territory, which later became Oklahoma. They sent him from, trying to think where he was born.
Let's see. He was, they didn't say where he was born. Halfway between Hugo and Antlers, Oklahoma.
Well, that's where I was born.
But I don't know where he was from.
Well, anyway, he was sent from
Arkansas or something? I don't know.
No. I could tell you just in a minute because my other book shows.
We
but
have
anyway,
genealogy like crazy.
Yeah. He was sent to Indian Territory to preach to the Indians.
Yeah.
And so he would go from horseback from one little community to another and establish a Sunday school.
Yeah.
And it would later become a church. And he'd stay there and just till he got a group of people, got it going, and then he'd go and start another one. And the interesting thing is, when I was 13 years old, we moved from the southwest corner of Oklahoma to the south central, and that's the area that he had been sent all those years before, and he was in Stonewall, which was about 20 miles from where we moved to.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I'm just get this back a little bit more. Oh, sorry. Okay, guys, thanks for joining. And Ted Simpson said hi, Annalita.
Who?
Ted Simpson
Oh,
said hi,
really?
Annalita. So anyway, so hi. Yeah, so just family history. And my grandma always says we walk in miracles, and that's why she wrote her life story, so that her kids and grandkids, but we give this life story to a lot of people, whoever's interested in reading it, they can read her whole life story, and they can know how she knows that God is real, because there's been miracles that have been a part of life all throughout life, not just in her life, but with her parents and her grandparents and her great-grandparents.
Family.
And with family. So it's passed down from generation to generation.
Actually,
I love that.
Actually, right at the end of this, I said the reason I wrote this is so my great-great-grandchildren would understand the reason I'm who I am.
That's right. And I've got, at this point, 13 grandkids. And so those are her great-great-grandkids, if you can imagine. So we interact with 5 generations here. And even with this virus, we can't all be together all at once, but we're a family, and we're all really careful to protect grandma. But her life is always a testimony to her great-great-grandchildren. So that's 5 generations. So I'm in the middle of 5 generations. And it's a privilege, and it's fun because we do life here together. We live under the same roof. She's got her own apartment, but it's here at the back of my house. So it's just a pleasure to be able to do life together, even while we're quarantined. But grandma is so amazing, because even throughout this quarantine, she's just so full of wisdom, and it's been a good time. My brother actually has an opportunity to read the life story. He just has never really taken the time to read it word for word. And for me, I'm not very good at reading grandma. I skip around, I skip to the front, I skip to the back, and I probably have not read it word for word. But I've read it. I love her story.
Every story that I tell, and I'm full of stories, of course.
I know, we're going to tell some stories.
You could say that I'm one of those people that's full of it, and that doesn't always mean the same to everybody.
Well,
I'm anxious to talk to Aaron, her brother, that's reading it, to see where he is. And when I talked to him about a week ago, he was in 1989.
89.
So
okay.
I'm so anxious to hear what's going on.
Well, she was born in 1923, and so, I mean, she has seen so much in her life, but never in her life anything like what we're going through right now with this global pandemic, that where the whole world is shut down all at the same time. So this is very unique, and it's very different than, because you've been through everything. I mean, you've been through, oh my gosh, what have you not been through? The Depression, World War II, the Dust Bowl,
all of that. But you know what? I was born in the right home. Mm-hmm. Never one time did I ever hear my mom and dad talk about anything we did not have. They were always thankful for what we did have. So I didn't know we were poor I knew there was no money, but we were not poor.
Well, you always had what you needed.
Mom was so good at sewing until Letha and I were the best dressed kids in school. No matter what, they were made over out of somebody else's clothes. But we looked good, and we had plenty of food. So, growing up on the farm, all I can say is I've always been blessed, no matter what happened, in capital letters.
Well, blessed, and also blessed because her mom and her dad, or her mom was just such a prayer warrior that, she trusted God for everything, and they trusted God for everything. And when they needed something, they prayed about it, and they didn't just, they prayed seriously. They prayed loud, and they prayed through, and they didn't quit praying until the Lord showed up and really answered them, or directed them, or whatever the case may be. And one of my favorite stories that's in her story here is about my great-grandparents. Now, my great-grandparents, I was close to, because she lived to be just shy of 100 herself, and so I got to, she knew my kids and everything. So it's really neat that we have this 5 generations at a time that were able to pass down these stories. But I love the story of what year would it have been when Grandpa Burns was needing to hire someone, or he was needing to get the job.
Oh, the drought and the grasshoppers and everything that could happen to wipe out western Oklahoma had happened.
The drought, grasshoppers.
So
like a plague of grasshoppers.
Oh,
really.
yes. You could see them coming like a cloud, black cloud, and every leaf that was in front of them was taken off. We had barbed wire fences, and they'd be snagged on those barbs.
Everywhere.
I remember that. But they went to pray to see what to do for the next year. And the Lord told them on the way back we were in eastern Oklahoma, Mom preaching a 2-week revival. And they told them to stop by the Clarita area at Lee Morrison's house. And, that's a beautiful story.
It is. Finish telling it. So they stopped by there.
They stopped by. When they knocked on the door, they said, Lily, we don't know what we're here for. The Lord just said, stop by here. And she said, come on in. Ooh, I get goosebumps just telling it.
I know,
all
love it.
These years. That was in 1936.
1936.
And she said, Lee is up behind the barn in his prayer place. He has to have an answer by noon. And she looked at the clock, said he'll be coming in any minute. And when he came in the back door, the tears started. He was a big man. And the tears just started rolling. And he went and hugged Dad in a big bear hug. And he said, all the Lord told me at my prayer time is the man you're supposed to hire is sitting in your living room right now. Don't that remind you of the Peter and Cornelius?
Yes.
That's the kind of life I lived. I didn't know that God was not supposed to answer every time you prayed.
And it was a government job.
Oh,
and it was the biggest blessing.
It was the very first job opening up at the WPA. You'd have to be older to understand what that was. And he needed a foreman, and he appointed Dad as the foreman.
So then that was
provision. We moved on my birthday.
When you were how old?
13.
13 years old. And then that was this great job, great provision, and he worked himself silly preparing for that job and getting it done.
Yes, Mom and Hugh Corzine, Lonnie's brother, and us kids went ahead farming, made the crop, and Dad worked an outside job. So we were not really the poorest of the poor,
Well, but the thing about it was that was such a blessing. And I know a lot of people need to hear stories like this too, because a lot of people have lost jobs, or a lot of people have had transitions in their company where people have been laid off and they're going to have to rehire. But you know what? Don't forget to pray about it. And as he was praying, he just said, the man you're supposed to hire is in your living room right now. That was amazing. And then over the years, their family became such a touch point for provision for the entire community because of the food that they had from the farm and the animals on the farm, and they had their eggs and their milk and their the crops and the gardens and everything.
We made our own cottage cheese.
Made their own cottage cheese, made their own butter, made their own everything, right? And but so their house was the place that where when preachers would come through town, this is where they would stay. This is where, they hosted everybody. And if anybody had a need, people were well aware that they could go to the Burns house and their needs would be met because the Lord provided really so that they could be a tool to minister to the entire community.
Well, and Grandma Burns always lived with us.
Yeah.
When Mom was only 16 when she married, and she moved into their home where Grandpa, her husband had died in November. Mom and Dad married in July. Well, because that was Grandma's home, all the aunts and uncles would come there to visit. So we were the hub of the wheel.
Yeah, you were. Mm-hmm.
And it was wonderful.
Well, for all the relatives, but for all the community as well.
Yep.
As well. Okay, so I know we're going like way back in time here, because the reason that I've been thinking about this is also because my grandkids were in the car today, and I did not catch it on video. I wish I did, but I was driving, and I think sometimes just to enjoy the special moment, it doesn't have to be caught on video. But my grandkids were in the back seat singing, and it was Faith and Haven, and they were singing The Blessing that Carrie Job and Cody Carnes have been singing. And so as they're singing The Blessing, may his favor be upon you and your family from generation to generation, and your children and your children's children, and just going on from generation to generation. And I was thinking about this, and we're just so blessed in our family to have experienced so many generations of miracles and documented miracles and provision. And whether if you would ask grandma about her great-grandparents or her grandparents or her life, or my parents talk about their lives, I can tell you about the miracles of my life, and my kids can tell you about the miracles in their life, and now my grandkids will be able to tell you about the miracles in their life. And the point is, that's how we know God is real. We know God is real because we experience him. And she always says, I'm so privileged to have grown up in a home that I know God is real. And I feel that way too. I'm so privileged to have grown up in a home to know that God is real, but also to know that not just from my parents, but from all of my grandparents, from all of my aunts and uncles. I mean, it was just it was an incredible experience that I now pass down to my children and grandchildren to share the stories of God's faithfulness throughout the generations. And that's how you know God is real, as he's faithful and his promises are true, even in the midst of plagues and sickness and disease and all of this stuff.
Actually, we don't have anything to complain about. We don't complain. We have too many things to be thankful for.
Exactly. We don't complain. That's not something we do. Complaining was not passed down from generation to generation, but an attitude of gratitude was definitely passed down. Okay, another one of my favorite stories. I have a whole bunch of really favorite stories. Another one from that time period was when my great-grandma Burns was filled with the baptism of the Holy Spirit. So will you tell that story?
Well, that was before we moved to Western Oklahoma.
I love this story.
I was born, Mom and Dad married, and I was born in the southeast corner of Oklahoma. And that's when I was 3 months old, we moved to the southwest corner in 2 covered wagons.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Mom. Mom had become a Christian. She did not grow up in a Christian home. But she became a Christian the year before I was born. And she had her little private place out from the house to go to pray. And she began to speak in a strange language that she'd never heard before. And she didn't know what I'll have to back up to say, my dad's sister, Aunt Bertha, was the evangelist in that revival where Mom was saved. And so when this happened to her, she said, oh, I can't wait till Bertha comes so I can find out what happened to me, because she'd never even read it in the scriptures.
Okay, so let's take a few life lessons from here. Okay, so number one, she would go out back to have her time with the Lord. I really think that to know God is real, we really have to take time in that classroom of silence, the place of
private place,
a silent place with the Lord, where it's just you and God talking and sharing, and she was talking, she was listening, and it's in this private place, in this classroom of silence where you connect with God and you connect spiritually, and we have to do that, and that's where she started speaking in another language, and she didn't know what happened to her. So then she was asking her her aunt, or her
Sister-in-law.
her sister-in-law. Okay, so then think about this. My great grandmother's sister-in-law was a woman evangelist. Okay, I also come from a long line of women evangelist preachers and speakers. We're talking from the early 1900s here. And I mean, even the late 1800s. So it goes back a long way, not just men, but men and women preachers. And I think that's really super cool. I think that's truly awesome, because God uses everybody, men, women, older people, younger people, whatever place you are in your life, he uses you, as long as there is that time that you have to really connect with him. And she really invested that time. So she is the one that my great grandma, whenever she, well, you say you grew up Pentecostal because of this experience that she had.
Yeah, because what was such a blessing for me, and when we went to Western Oklahoma, and my mom and a good Christian Baptist woman in the community started a Sunday school in the schoolhouse, and they were anti-Pentecostal, but is an interesting thing. I could remember that when someone would get sick in their home, they'd come to my mom and come and pick her to go and pray for them.
Yeah.
And so I grew up.
She believed in supernatural power of God because that's what she read about. And remember, this is not what she was taught. This is what she read about in the scripture. So but people in the community did not believe in miracles and didn't believe in healing. If they got sick, they came to her and they were healed. They were healed.
The thing that was so great, we didn't have a church house, not a Pentecostal church house, ever. We had church in our home and in another couple of people's
homes. They didn't have a building.
And we had no preacher to preach to us.
Yeah.
But my mom and grandma, they got the Pentecostal Evangel in the mail, and Healing Waters, and
Healing Waters from
and Christ for the Nation.
Oh, okay.
Healing Waters.
Christ for the Nations. We love to see. Do you see how this is a connection for all of my Facebook friends that are CFNI people? From Gordon Lindsay, that Healing Waters literature that ministered to her because she did not have a preacher telling her. So she got that in the mail, and these things.
And they literally devoured that and studied Grandma.
So special.
And you'd have to know how she prayed. I always jokingly said my mom thought God was hard hearing because she prayed so
loud. I do remember that.
Fervently.
Yeah.
It was interesting, the drawing power that there was. But what I started to say, how I was blessed, I would go to and we had a Baptist minister came there once a month and preach. And I think these people are Christians, but they're different from my mom.
Right.
They're different. And everywhere I would go to a church, after we moved to Clarita, I'd go to Church of Christ and Methodist with a friend that I'd spend the night with.
Church of Christ or Methodist or Baptist.
I think these people are Christians, but they're different from my mom. And it made me so interdenominational until there was no boundaries in my spirit.
Exactly.
So it was a blessing in disguise.
And I think for me, the real blessing was because of the relationship with God and even baptism in the Holy Spirit being so authentic with her. My great grandma Burns, there was no legalism attached to it. It wasn't religious and there wasn't legalism. It was
spiritual.
it was just spiritual. It was deeply spiritual. And my memories, my whole life as a little girl, and then on, until I had kids, is as I would walk, even approach her back door, because she lived down the street from my grandparents. Even as I approached the back door, I could hear her praying so loud because she would just spend hours a day praying. How many hours a day do you think she would spend just praying for her family, her kids, her grandkids, and everybody else's prayer requests, just constantly, a woman of prayer. And I'm telling you, major miracles happened as a result of her prayer. She was healed of cancer. herself.
Oh yeah.
She had breast cancer, and she could have died at a very young age.
Oh, in 1938.
And so she was 38. She was 38 years old.
She was born in 1900.
Yeah, and she literally almost died then.
Yeah.
But she had a supernatural healing. This is an incredible story.
Raymond T. Ritchie was an evangelist that came to Ada, and they took Mom to be prayed for. And
Right.
she was so weak, they had to help her to the front to be prayed for. She said she didn't feel anything unusual till in the night, she said, I heard something burst in my breast.
And she felt like a pressure, right?
Well, this is the way she described it. She said, I literally heard it. Of course, she felt it. Something burst in her breast, and a mucus came out the nipple of her breast. Yeah.
We say that word on Facebook Live? Yeah. That
Well, that's
thing.
okay.
Well, yeah, but listen to that. And so literally an oozing came out, and that cancer came out, and she was well, 100% well.
Well, she lived to be 99 in 7 months. And
Yeah.
she was 38. And in September of that year, Janelle was born.
Yep, she had another baby after that. So, hi, Aunt Janelle, if you're watching, and she'll watch the replay for sure. But anyway, aren't these amazing stories? And so, even when I am at the doctor's office, I'm like saying hi to everybody. When I go to the doctor's office and I'm supposed to fill out the medical history form, I just want to, instead of filling out like what cancer they had or what heart disease they have, I just want to say healed, 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 healed. I mean, there was just supernatural healing all the way. You know, my dad was healed of heart disease, and my one grandma was healed of breast cancer. My other grandma was healed of several different types of cancer. I mean, there's so many healing stories. My mom was just healed of cancer last year. I just feel like there's so many healing stories that I can't even hardly bring myself to writing in my medical history, because my medical history is everyone gets healed of anything that they've ever had.
Even me, I was supposed to die in 1943.
More than one time you were supposed to die.
Well,
that was just one of the times.
That was one of the times.
Yeah.
And they said, this doctor can probably save you, but she cannot save the baby. And that baby is 77 years old.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Uncle Noel. Happy birthday next month. He will be 77. And
The 25th
really,
May.
so at that point in her pregnancy, she almost died. And since she was about to lose her life, that's when they called my grandpa in World War II to hurry and come home because his wife was dying. But as a result of that, he actually got to see the baby, which he would not have been able to if her prognosis would not have been so bleak. But
And I was not supposed to, forbidden to have another child. And look at what a blessing my Debbie has been all these years.
okay, so there's another life lesson, y'all. So she was forbidden then to have her second child because she almost died in childbirth with her first child. And then, so the doctor told her, if you get pregnant with the second child, it's suicide. Like, it's suicide. You won't make it. You can't have another baby. And she decided to risk it because they wanted one more child. And
Well, Moffat had missed all of Noel's baby days. He was gone for 3 years in the war.
he was gone for 3 years in the war. So by the time he came home, my Uncle Noel's 3.
I told Moffat, God took me through, then he'll do it again.
He'll do
And
it
he
again.
did.
That's the whole point. Is
No
God
problem.
took me through before, he'll take me through again, regardless of, what the doctors were saying. So just to take the situation and just face your fear with courage and say, you know what? God and I are going to get through this, and I'm not afraid of it. Whatever happens, happens, but I'm not afraid of it. And I'm gonna trust God through the situation. And it's amazing, the miracle. So my mom's a miracle. It's a miracle that my grandparents even had the faith to get pregnant. So I'm pretty grateful that she didn't allow that the fear
You mean
to stop
for
her.
More children?
No, for just having my mom. Like, you weren't afraid to get pregnant. You listened to what the doctor said, but it was just,
Well,
you knew that you wanted to take the risk.
do you want me to say something that I'm not supposed to say on
Say whatever you
Facebook?
want. Say anything you want.
Well, while I was in the hospital with Debbie, the doctors sent Moffat to Gonzales to have a hysterectomy. I'm not,
we were just talking about his right to have a vasectomy.
Have a vasectomy.
They sent him to have one while you were still in the hospital?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Rude.
Yep.
Glad he didn't do that. You told him no?
He did. No, he did.
He did?
After.
That's not in your story. I've not read that.
After Debbie was born.
Oh, after she was born. Yes, I thought you were saying like after Uncle Noel. Okay, yeah.
While I was in the hospital with Debbie, they said, you can't, I didn't even know that they actually required him before I got out of the hospital.
They want you pushing your luck and having a third child.
Right.
Got it. Okay, well, you know what? This is life, right? This is life. And that's the whole point, is to go through her story and to see the miracles. I mean, this is life. And we all are faced with these situations, and we have to know we never know what God's going to do, but we always know he's going to be there for us. He's going to get us through it. So those are some of my favorite stories. So many favorite stories. Okay, so another favorite story. This is like fast forward years. But the year before my mom graduated from high school, so this was in 1964. In 1964, she was working at my cousin's grocery store, and my grandfather was the butcher there, and she was working there as well. So they're working at this little grocery store in this little town of Chular, California. And a man comes in and offers her a job to be the postmaster of the little post office there. Like
Trina,
literally.
But Trina, that happened a year before.
Oh, okay, that happened in 63, but you started in 64.
At the end of 63.
End of 63, okay.
Yeah, because I was actually put to work on the 28th of December.
63,
So
okay.
it was in December of 63. So I'd say a couple of weeks before that, because I went to help, volunteered to help Anna Brown through the Christmas season.
Just to get familiar with it. So, I mean, that doesn't happen. Like, that does not happen. I mean, it's a government job. It was the highest paying job in the whole community, and the one with the most responsibility, because it's a very small town.
More money than anybody in town.
Yeah, highest paid and most responsibility. And I mean, it was true. It was offered to her, and usually, I mean, this was a job that usually had to be appointed and
work your way up
and all that. And she didn't have any experience at all. But I mean, it was just a God thing. It was a God thing.
It was a God thing.
And as a result of that,
only God knew that a year from then, Moffat would be the pastor of the little church, and it was really small right then.
That's right.
That would not support a family. And here I had a job that would support us.
That's right. So my grandfather became a pastor of the only little church in the small town, which was across the street from the post office, and just a few blocks down the street from their home. 2 blocks. And so since that church wasn't able to pay his salary, he was able to devote the next 25 years to being a pastor. 25 years to being a pastor, because she was able to work full time in the post office. And
of course the church grew.
The church really grew, we have so many great memories of Chular Church.
It grew till his salary was big enough that he brought in an assistant pastor and paid him.
Aw, that's so sweet. So lots of memories of God's provision, of divine appointments, and as a result of that, like, we can even all of these years, she's been retired from the U.S. Post Office.
35 years.
35 years. She's receiving retirement. So it's been a provision for her
I've been getting
nonstop.
a retirement check for 35 years.
For real. So, and the miracles upon miracles upon miracles. I mean, and the details, like down to the tiniest detail. When she was preparing to retire, she was feeling kind of this nudge as she was putting up mail, and the Holy Spirit prompted her to add up.
Well, that was Moffat's first Social Security check arrived that morning, and it was in our box.
So she added that up with what her take-home pay would be, and it equaled to the penny what your salary would have
We
been.
had, Moffat and I had already been, this was
So
in
then
October.
that's when she retired.
We had already been to San Jose to see what my retirement, because I was eligible. See, you had to have a combination of years' work and age to be 80, and you were eligible to retire.
Yeah.
So I was eligible, had been for 3 months. 2
Yes.
months.
Yeah.
2 months. Anyway, the amount of my retirement check was laying on my desk. And what I heard was add together Moffat's Social Security check and your retirement, and it will equal your take-home pay.
And it did to the penny. To the penny.
And I quickly went over and got the check out, opened it, violated the law probably, opened his check. I had to go to the time card drawer to see actually, because they different things are taken out, see what that total was. My ad machine added them together, and to a penny it equaled. And then the next thing I said, there I stood, I'm sure, with my mouth open in shock. The next thing I heard, what are you doing here? In other words, time for you to get out of here, because you have a full-time job being Moffat's a pastor's wife.
And then they devoted themselves to, 100% to ministry and to...
So it was 5 years. I didn't feel retired until 5 years later when he retired.
Yeah. But isn't that special? So for that last 5 years before he retired, she got to just be full-time a pastor's wife, which already she was before full-time homemaker, full-time mother, full-time postmaster, full-time pastor's wife. And I don't know how she did it all, but she did. But
teaching the adult class.
she taught the adult class. She,
spoke at ladies' prayer breakfast all the time.
But you got up early and you stayed up late, and you trained my mom and my Uncle Noel to be really good helpers at home. So anyway, she got it all done. She got it all done.
Couldn't have done it without them. And the Lord had to forgive me for making them
Slave labor, child labor.
They made what am I trying to say?
No.
Workaholics. That's
because you made them workaholics. That's
workaholics,
true. Maybe because my Uncle Noel and my mom are both pretty much workaholics. That's true. So okay, so that's your fault.
If they're not busy, they'd be miserable.
They work no matter what. But that is such good, training to teach your children that strong work ethic. And she certainly trained them that way, and she modeled that as well. But life is good. We have a lot of fun reminiscing, and we could continue to tell hundreds of stories, if not thousands. But it's a lot of fun because she knows God is real. I know God is real. And he proves himself to us over and over and over again.
Life has been so good, and it's not over yet.
It's not over yet. No, not even near being over. And so
I enjoy every day.
And we feel the presence of God every day. And she reads the Bible through once a year. I wish I could say that, Grandma. I would like to think that I do that, but I'm so bad. I skip around. I start the new year saying, okay, I'm going to read the Bible through this year. I start my new plan, and I get so tired of the Old Testament, and then I skip around. And anyway, I always read Psalms and Proverbs, and I always read the New Testament. The Old Testament is wearing me out. And my grandma's telling me, well, Trina, I know it's hard to get through it, but it all has a purpose. And I'm just like, but she's such a good example of persevering. She reads all the time, her Bible and other books, and she's constantly super, super inspired. So she's very inspirational. But I like she says some of these things. You've wasted your day if you aren't having fun.
Well, we'll put it like this. If you don't have fun every day, you wasted your day.
That's right. And she does her hair every day.
That simply means enjoy what you're doing. If it's digging a ditch, if it's washing dishes, whatever it is, enjoy it.
Don't complain. Enjoy it. Have joy. She fixes her hair every day. She puts on her makeup every day. and gets dressed up, wears jewelry, wears earrings.
Well, there's too many mirrors in my house not to.
She cooks for herself,
I
keeps
do
her
it for
table
me.
set, you know. So being the best version of yourself has nothing to do with going out in public. Nothing to do with going out in public. Like, I don't get dressed up to go out. I get dressed up because I'm worth it, right?
I dress up to be able to live with me.
That's right. And something else she always says, because you've lived alone. Well, what year did Grandpa die? But by the way, she doesn't say he passed away. She says he died, so that's why I say it that way.
Yeah.
What year did he die?
2005.
So since 2005, she's been alone, but she says, I don't mind being alone because I like me. And she never complains about being alone and living alone. She misses him, but she knows his arms are around her always, and he's in every special memory that she has, so she never really feels lonely.
But really, you can be alone and never be lonely.
Right. You're never lonely because you don't have a lonely attitude, and you've got great memories.
Oh,
And
the greatest memory.
she says that's one reason.
It's easy when you've married the best man in the whole wide world.
Yeah. So that's one reason to have a great life, because someday you'll really live on your memories. But anyway, so we've got a great life. We wish you guys all the best, and I hope that you know that every day that you are home alone or with just your family, be the best version of yourself, because God has a plan for your life. He loves you, and no matter what situation you're in, he will be faithful to you. He's been faithful to you before, and he's been faithful to your friends and family, and there's all kinds of reminders of his faithfulness always. So remember that God is real and he loves you, and thank you for joining us on Facebook Live today for some life stories with Grandma. God bless you guys. Hugs and high fives. Bye. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.